Hey everybody, Josh here, and welcome to the Go Therefore podcast. Today I took the podcast on the road. I was able to go up in the mountain where I met with pastor of Mayhill Baptist Church, Pete McMillan. Man, this guy is a brother in Christ. We had a good conversation. We talked about faith. We talked about multiple different things. He was very gracious with his time, and I really appreciate that. And I enjoyed getting to know him a little bit better. You know, we had met just a handful of times at different events here in New Mexico. And so sometimes you run into somebody and you kind of say, oh, well, here's a connection, right? And then sometimes several years later you talk and you find out that was mutual and you're not a weirdo, and that's even better. But anyway, I had a good time today talking with Pete, and I hope you enjoy it as well. Hey, if you like the Go Therefore podcast, be sure to like us and follow us on wherever you get your podcast. And if you really like it, go ahead and leave us a positive review. It'll help others find it in the algorithm. Again, thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Jesus, for this podcast. Please use it to reach somebody lost.
And Jesus came and said to them, All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit.
I think that was probably the first time I had gone to one of those things.
Mine too.
Yeah.
I just got here in January. That was probably early spring or something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe May, but yeah, I just kind of getting settled in here.
Yeah, I don't think I'd been at it too long. Over at where we are, what had happened is our pastor, he ended up getting called somewhere else.
Yeah.
So there for a while, he was with us during the day, and then he was on the road to be somewhere else in the evening. And then that kind of switched to where he was with us in the evening and started going somewhere else during the day. So those of us at the church, the men, we just kind of started taking turns.
Right.
And then it just kind of became less and less until I was wound up doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still on the thing as the the associate.
Is that right?
Sure, yeah.
Did 5 years.
Yeah, yeah, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did you come from? Texas, right?
Yeah, I actually moved from Yucatan. I lived in Mexico for a couple of years,
mm-hmm.
and we made a pit stop in Texas to grab some stuff, but
mm-hmm.
we went pretty much moved from Mexico to here.
Oh, I see.
We were from Mineral Wells, Texas.
Where were you at over in Mexico?
So you know how like Mexico does that like peninsula thing right here.
Mm-hmm.
So that right there, it's gonna be a horrible drawing, but if that we were right there.
Oh, I see.
We split it into a north and south. So it kind of looks like that. So this state is Quintana Roo, mm-hmm. where like Cancun is on the East Coast. This state is Campeche on the West Coast. Yucatan is both the central state
mm-hmm.
and the peninsula. So Yucatan means either peninsula or the state.
I see.
So we were working. We had some stuff going on the West Coast in Campeche, but mainly we focused right in the center of Yucatan. So there's a little more population to the north. There's the capital of Yucatan is Merida. About 30 minutes north of there is the beach. Occasionally you get some like cruises that will make a pit stop there in Progreso. But we were focused on the kind of central inland rural Mayan folk.
I see.
In the deep into the jungle type of deal. So we had plenty of stuff in the north, but I delegated a lot of that to kind of a supervisor that reported to me, and he helped do some church planting, and I kind of focused my efforts in the south.
Did you have a church house there, or was that all the missionary stuff?
No, it was pretty much all mission and church planting.
Oh, okay.
I mean, there were a few decent established churches that had gotten up and going the past 20 or 30 years, but my efforts were, and those were kind of our grandfather ministry that started decades ago, not me included, but they I was, like a lot of ministry, we got this, not me, but people got this going decades ago, and then I went down there to kind of, build on the foundation there. So, and that's kind of why I like the South, the more rural, less churched. In Merida, there's like Calvary Chapel in Merida. It's not big, but there's presence there. Doesn't mean they don't need more, but my heart was for the Mayans, which are more inland and south of there. Yeah.
How many people did you see come to the Lord over there?
So kind of my job there was not so much like direct evangelism. There was a man that helped, a local man there, Tomas Nieto, who got some training in America, went back there to start seminaries, and he'd been doing this for 15, 20 years by the time I went there. So he was kind of doing the Bible teaching and training and sending out evangelists. I went down there to kind of bridge the gap between Bible teaching and evangelism and discipleship and church planting. Because they event like those, the locals down there, when they come to faith, evangelism is like everyone's spiritual gift. Yeah. They know how to go share the gospel. But we were doing it for about 10 years, and we weren't seeing churches begin to produce, and let alone reproduce. And so I was just kind of sitting down there to sort of be a bridge, show them how to connect evangelism to your Bible teaching, and in the middle, discipleship, leadership training, church planning, reproduction.
And did you know the language, or did you just have a guy with you?
So, I would say, functional. I could go to the hardware store, go to the grocery store, I could have some conversations. But if I was preaching or doing some teaching or instruction, I had Wilfredo, who was my Spanish translator, and then I had Angel, who was my Mayan translator.
Yeah.
So, because you could go to, say, our town of where I lived in Takash, you might get a blend, but if you go to Pinkuyut, it's mostly Mayan. But then if you go to Campeche, or I'm sorry, that's the West Coast. If you go to Contamo, it might be all Spanish speaking. And so you kind of had to be either very, like a polyglot and know three languages, or you need both the guys with you. Because, I don't know, I think it was something how when the conquistadors came and they might dominate one town but leave another town alone. So if they left that town alone, they kept their Mayan language. If they dominated this town, it was Spanish speaking.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever run into an Acts 2 situation where you just started talking and people got it, or?
Yeah. There was everything. It was I called it like Candyland. It was whatever sort of ministry you wanted to get into, you could do it, and it didn't come much like Acts 2. It didn't just happen. It was the culmination of a lot of things. There was in a particular town where there was a missionary going, and her name was actually Dorcas.
That's cool.
Yeah, she's awesome. She would go and try to evangelize some of the town, and they made threats to her and said, "Don't come back." They didn't threaten her, say, physically, personally, but they would say, "We're going to cut your tires if you come back here." She kept coming. And if no one would talk to her, she'd walk the town praying for. And one thing led to another but it took a couple of years, and then boom, there's uh, one sort of patriarch of the town came to faith, and then it was on.
And everybody's in.
Yeah.
What was predominantly happening over there? Was it a pagan thing? Were they?
Yeah. So the Catholic Church was very different there. It was very, and I'm not the most church guy in the world. I didn't grow up in church, so I definitely don't know my way around the Catholic Church in the States. But from what I've heard, it was almost like medieval down there. It was very possessive. So you're dealing with a Catholic Church that in that same city that I was referring to before, there was a church that, like a building that our folks had, but there were some believers. There was this hurricane monsoon rain season that flooded the town, and they went to the Catholic Church and they said, no, you go to your own church. You're not allowed in here, because the Catholic Church was up on the hill, so everyone was flocking to safety. And they said, no, you're not welcome here. So you had that sort of resistance, but then you also had like the Brujo witch doctor type of thing going on with all sorts of demonic superstition and witchcraft and those sorts of things. And then you just have your normal, secular, atheistic sort of resistance.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just people out there just trying to farm or do whatever they're doing.
Yeah. And so, every culture is a little bit different, but some people are just trying to survive. And, but most people were very receptive. Some of it was, much like you see in the States, kind of poverty laden. We actually moved in January of 2020, and then guess what happened? COVID in a couple months, which actually kind of, I don't want to say like benefited us, but it changed the way we had to do ministry, like a lot of churches saw, and it helped us because we went from like 100 miles an hour Bible teaching and evangelism to let's slow down and let's really re-examine what a church is, so that you can be discipled well, be grown in your leadership abilities, and then you can show someone else how to do that and open up your sort of your own leadership pipeline. And some of that was, I don't think they'd ever been given permission to do it themselves. Culture is different. So America, where you always grow up, we can do whatever we want to. We're Americans. We have that almost like God-given right. Whatever you want to do, you can pursue that. And there it was like, there was some hesitancy to, wait, I can be a church leader? Of course, we need the right sort of people and men, and over time you can get there. But even those qualified were kind of hesitant to pursue that. And we said, no, you can do this. You're supposed to do this. This is the Great Commission. And then once they were given that sort of push or allowance or permission to do it, they ran with it.
Yeah.
Within a couple of years of my ministry there, they were doing their own leadership conferences. They went, that quick. Yeah.
What's your communication like with them now?
Yeah. So actually, last week I went to Texas, and I drove, a couple hours just to go visit the director of Kingdom Connectors, is what that ministry is called. I ain't got to see him in a few years. I still email a lot of the guys. We stay connected through WhatsApp. Sometimes it's asking questions or advice, and sometimes it's just a report of what they're doing. But I try to stay involved. But that was one of the things that God was kind of telling me, it's your time to transition out, because they don't need you anymore. They're doing it. They're killing it without you. It was kind of a long story of my wife needed to come back for health reasons. So we did that, and then we went back to Mexico just to kind of do hey, I can't be out in the field with you as much. I'm going to take care of my wife. But y'all go, let's make a plan. Y'all go do it. And then when you come back, and we'll discuss it. And after a couple months of doing that, it's like, okay, well, I can do this from anywhere. Y'all are doing the job.
Right.
And you're doing it on your own, and not just the preaching or the pastoring, but they were helping others plant churches. They were starting small groups and, abandoned restaurants with permission from the owner, and growing making disciples and putting them other places, and kind of they had their own little areas and regions, and they were doing it. So it was kind of God saying, "Hey, it's your time to go somewhere else because these guys they got it."
And that's awesome. How how did you end up down there in the first place? Where were you?
Yeah, like I said, I came to faith in Mineral Wells, Texas, at a church plant. It had been going for about 7 years at the time. They were they sort of had a sister church that was helped planning them, and these two churches were going down on mission trips with the locals and the director, and they had been doing this together for, you know, the church in Graham, who was helping plant that church in Mineral Wells, had been doing it for probably a decade or more. And so when I came to faith, it was just what the church did. Every year they go on a mission trip down there. Mm-hmm. I couldn't for probably 10 years because I had a job and we were having kids, and it was either my vacation time was either youth camp or having a kid or something like that. And then finally in 2018, Cassie, my wife, said, "I know you can't go, but I'm going to go again." She had been when she was 18. Now she was closer to 30, and she had gone a few times, but she said, I'm going. So I stayed home with the kids, and she went, and she said, "I had the best time. It was awesome, but I'm not going back without you. I want you to come next time." I said, "Okay, next year I'll go. I'll plan my vacation time." So in 2019, I finally, after seeing all my friends and a bunch of my family and my wife go several times, I finally got to go on this mission trip down there. And when I stepped foot down there, I was immediately thinking, how can I get a job down here? I wasn't thinking about being a missionary. I was just thinking, how can I move down here, support myself and my family, and then be a part of things? And then we served that week. I fell in love with the people, the ministry, the place. And on the flight home, before it took off, I told my wife, Cassie, "I'm moving down here. We're doing it." And she said, "Okay." Yeah. And so we fly back. I think it was probably a Saturday or Sunday flight. I go to work Monday. I get a call from Chris Holmes at Kingdom Connectors. He said, "Man, I had a great time with you last week. Thanks for going. We got to know each other a little bit. You're a quality manager. You're a bivocational pastor. You're exactly who I need down here in Mexico to do this. What I need. I can't be down there. I've got to do my thing up here in the States, but you're exactly who I need." I was like, "Well, I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't know how to go about it." Mm-hmm. He said, "Well, I can provide a car and a house. If you can raise the money for everything else, can we do this?" And I was like, yeah. I didn't have any experience in fundraising or self-supporting missions or anything like that. But that was probably August or maybe June, July when we planned it. I think I sold my house in September or October. Mm-hmm. I started fundraising. We were preparing to move down there in December and made it happen in January. It happened pretty fast.
What was your trade?
I was a quality manager at a telecommunications factory in Mineral Wells called Antenna Products. I'd gotten some experience at a previous factory. It was more oil field related in Mineral Wells, but I was just, I was the sort of aimless 18, 19, 20-year-old in college, but taking every class, but failing most of them, didn't know what to do with my life. Pretty miserable, even though I was having a lot of fun type of thing. And then, the quick testimony is my dad, who was a similar man for most of his life until he was about 40, he called me and said, "I got to apologize to you. I'm a follower of Jesus. I need to tell you about who my Lord and Savior is." And I hung up the phone. I was like, I don't want to hear none of that, And but he kept planting the seeds of the gospel, and I just knew I got to blow up my life. This ain't working, and so I made sort of a leap of faith. I began a relationship with the Lord, but I restarted my life. So I just walked into a factory one day looking for a job because I knew college wasn't my path. Didn't know what I want to do with a degree if I got it anyway. But I was like, oh, let me just start a job and I'll figure something out. I'll get a better job down the road. So day one, I'm sweeping the floors. And I fell in love with the place. I ended up being a supervisor there and then a quality manager down the road at a different location. But I loved manufacturing. I loved the shop, loved working with, 100, 150 people. That was kind of really a big part of my ministry, just being a presence there with people from all walks of life. But I knew upon salvation, I knew two things: that I was gonna, love Jesus, love my wife, and want to serve the church where I came to know Jesus at. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what full-time ministry. Like I said, I didn't grow up in the church at all. Since becoming a pastor in a different state, I've learned to share my testimony pretty quickly. Just saying, I grew up in a family that more people owned a bar than went to church.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's who we were, but it's provided me a lot of opportunities to witness in ways that some pastors can't, because I have a different experience and different work background and those sorts of things. And so I became a quality manager, and that actually provided a lot of help for pastoring.
Yeah, I find that too. I grew up in a similar situation. Church was the furthest thing from our mind. In fact, my grandparents owned a bar that my parents worked in, and that I ended up working at. Ended up meeting my wife there.
So you grew up playing shuffleboard and pool and learned how to two-step and
the whole thing.
Yeah.
They owned one here in Roswell. I say here in Roswell. We're about 2 hours away from there, but you know what I mean.
But we're neighbors. Yeah.
And then they owned one in Amarillo, right there on Ross Osage. We lived in Canyon, and we'd go over there. But man, I found that that's helped me in ministry, because just listening to somebody talk and then not having like a lot of judgment towards what they're saying or whatever, and being genuinely interested in it, because that's how I grew up.
You see them as human, not a project type of thing. And I don't mean that to be derogatory, but we know what they're going through. Yeah.
And we not growing up in church. It's funny you talk about that, because I didn't grow up in one either. What's the weirdest thing when you started going to a church? What's the one thing when you sit there like, man, what are these people doing?
No, there was a lot of, worship culture is just different. You at any time you congregate and you're not in church, you're either at a bar or at like a sporting event.
Sure.
And so you kind of see some similarities, but the subject is different. And but that was some of the things that God used. My love of the church came from, I was expecting, I had the chip on my shoulder, like, these people are hypocrites.
Yeah.
These people don't know who I am. They don't know what I've done, sort of thing. They think they're better than me, type of thing. Right? And I walk in, I'm like, I know some of these guys. They're just like my dad. They were just like who my dad was. Why are they different now? Mm-hmm. Right? And it was a clear, are they perfect? No, but there's something different about them, and I now know. I knew at the time they have something I don't. Mm-hmm. When I was the 21-year-old, party animal, searching for, enough fun to fill that hole, but it was, insurmountable. I was like, these guys, maybe they found what I was looking for.
Right.
And they also, they were fun, they were welcoming, but they were still inviting, like, hey, you're right. We love you, but we're different, and you can come along with us. Right. But, there was that sort of acceptance, but a expectation of, we're not the same anymore. Yeah. And you shouldn't be either. And if you really come into a relationship with Jesus, you ain't gonna stay the same either.
Right.
But there was some, I know how to sing Brooks and Dunn and George Jones. I don't know how to sing worship. So there's little it was a little odd at first, but then once you really fall in love with Jesus, you're like, yeah, I get it. I get why they're singing these songs.
Yeah. Yeah. And why are we skipping this whole third line?
Yeah. 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 There's some newness to it. You just kind of learn how to fall in line and assimilate and become some of the family. You know, there's sort of that adoption sort of motif where you're like, yeah, I'm a little new to the family, but I'm in.
Yeah. What got me is working around the bar is you would run into things just in your personal life or with your parents or whatever to where you needed a plumber. Well, we have one of those. His name's Daryl. He's at the bar, and he's more than happy to come over and help. And I always thought that church wasn't going to be that way. I thought it was just going to be a bunch of people judgy. But no, I mean, there's a plumber there too, or there's whatever.
Exactly.
And they'll come to help you. And it kills me thinking back on those guys I knew from the bar, because now I know people at church who act just the same way. But man, those guys at the bar missed out on something, and I'm not gonna run into them. Yeah. Like, I mean, maybe, I don't know what happened to them, but yeah, it's man, I wish they could just make that transition and come over here and just center their life around this one thing instead of this other. Because man, there's some good people over there.
Absolutely.
And I always thought, like, these are some good people that I can get along with, and then over here it's going to be. But no, I mean, the difference is the Lord.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they have their stuff together. Their priorities.
Yeah. No, they might have some different priorities.
Sure.
But some people are that you find at a bar or whatever different circle of life. They are generous. They are. Serving, that they'll come help you, move or fix something or whatever. Yeah. And it's kind of their way of seeking out community and fellowship and doing those things. But we always know what the true purpose of behind all their desires really are. Yeah.
And then what cracks me up thinking about their debating sometimes, because typically it would go into politics or engines or whatever. But man, I've heard just as good a debate there absolutely. As I have with the Rapture.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
on this other side.
Yeah, yeah. No, I whether it was bar or I worked at a lube center in my early days growing up and stuff, and there were so many guys who would come in and they could talk about everything, and I finally asked one of them, it's like, how is it that you know something about everything? He said it was kind of a goal in my life where I didn't need to master anything, but I wanted to talk about everything a little bit and just see what other people, so they're great conversationalists and they're great listeners. Good people.
Were you, did you come to faith inside a church building, or was it somewhere with your dad?
Yeah. So that particular night was weird because it wasn't church, even though my dad planting the seeds of the gospel, just the simple, here's who Jesus is, here's what he offers through trust in him, forgiveness, bringing you into the family, simple seeds of the gospel. And then he kind of gave me a hook because I still wasn't very receptive to like coming to church. So I remember him finally saying, all right, Pete, look, it's Sunday, come to church with me, and then after that we'll cook out like old times and watch the Cowboy game. So we'll throw on some steaks, have a good day. I was like, I can do that. I'm a broke college kid. Free meal sounds good. So if the stipulation is I'll go to church, I'll do that. So I did start going to church a little bit, and because I was welcomed and even kind of skeptically enjoyed it, almost like a social experiment for me. Like, yeah, I'll do this. It wasn't so bad. And hanging out with my dad, that's fun. So I'll do that. So I went to church a few times, but that night where I truly first sort of repented and trusted in Jesus was I was coaching my little sister's basketball game. And I'd heard sermons. I'd heard my dad share what conviction of sin was. I had enough of the truth where I'm coaching this game, and we had a great season. It's our last game of the season, but we're kind of getting our butt kicked a little bit this game, and I didn't handle myself well. I didn't say anything horrible to a kid or treat a parent wrong. I was something was wrong with me that night. I just felt too angry. I was like, this is a 6th grade girls basketball game. Why am I this upset? I didn't feel like I handled myself well. And so anyway, I'm actually leaving there to drive to a Christian comedian that was in town, and I was supposed to go meet my dad at. And so on the way, I remember just feeling this, sort of pit in your stomach, bad feeling. I was like, I think that's what conviction is.
Yeah.
I was like, I think out of all the horrible stuff I've done in my life, why now do I feel bad about it?
Right. Yeah.
I was like, I haven't really felt bad about much of it I've ever done, even though I've done some pretty wicked things. But now I feel bad. I feel guilty. And it was those seeds of the gospel my dad had been planting, the sermons I'd heard, seeing people that were different. And I was like, I think like the Spirit's working in me where I feel conviction too. What do I do with this? Well, everything that everyone's been telling me to do, trust Jesus and ask for forgiveness. And so I did it, driving from Millsap, Texas to Mineral Wells, Texas to go listen to this, Christian comedian, Dennis Swanberg, I think is his name. He does like John Wayne and Billy Graham impersonations and just has fun with people, and he shares the gospel, and it's all, all that. And so after that event, he says, he kind of gives the invitation, and I respond just because I'm trying to tell people. I literally drive in like 3 minutes late, run, sit down, and I don't have a chance to talk to anybody. But I want to tell people I'm a believer now. And so he does the call, and I'm like, hey, that's me. And like my dad's crying because he doesn't know yet. He even had been asking the young adult small group to be praying for me for like 3 or 4 years. Well, my wife was in that young adult small group, so she'd been praying for me, and then a couple years later we were married. But so that was kind of not everyone has that sort of moment. It's some people, it's much more decades long sort of process, and I love that. But there was that sort of pivotal moment. Are you going to do this? Are you going to trust? Are you going to repent or not type of deal? Are you going to keep kicking the can down the road? And I remember driving just, it was the least likely response from me, I'm a very private introvert type of guy. And I made my public profession at 1,000 people, in this auditorium Christian comedian call, but it was really that drive from Millsap, Texas to Mineral Wells, and then I got baptized a couple of weeks later.
I'm assuming at your dad's church.
Yes.
And did that become your home church?
That became my home church. Yep. And then I eventually, similar a little bit to you, the pastor wanted to transition, and he gave sort of the leadership over to his younger guys, and I eventually became the interim pastor there, and that's when eventually I moved to Mexico.
Did you, prior to him handing things over to you guys, at what point did you know, was it right away, did you know you were going to be a minister once you were in?
Yeah, so that I kind of mentioned that earlier. I knew that night. I'm committing to follow Jesus, whatever that looks like, whatever they tell me to do, I'm going to do it. I want to be a disciple, and I want more people to do what I'm doing, to come to faith from all walks of life and really trust in Jesus and be transformed and come into the body of Christ. So at that point in February of 2018, I couldn't define minister. I couldn't tell you what a pastor did or didn't do or whatever. But real quickly, I remember, begging the pastor, he knew where I was coming from, so he was trying to really pound the gospel into me. But I was like, no, I'm in. I get Jesus. I get grace. I get the gospel. What do I do? He's like, okay, read the Gospels, or what else? Read Acts. And he would talk to me about it, and then I was like, all right, but what is there anything else I can do? And he's like, well, help do this, help do that. And what he was doing was just kind of give me a little bit as when I could do it, and then a year or two later, it's like, well, help these. There's two sixth grade boys. We don't have a youth. They're kind of the bridge between elementary and youth.
Right.
Like, start talking to those boys on Wednesday nights, and then I became the youth pastor, and then it was just a long, form of discipleship and leadership training, and then one day I was like, I do this. I think I want to. I didn't know what it meant, but I want to be a pastor. I want to do that.
Mm-hmm. Was your dad growing at this time too? Is he in ministry or?
He's not in ministry. He's been asked to be a deacon, but he's just like, hey, he was the best man I ever knew, even though he was a pretty rough character before coming to Jesus. But he was one of those guys that generous, loving in his own way. All of his friends were like, that's my best friend. I can trust him. And then when he came to faith, he had sort of those spiritual gifts of encouragement and generosity, and he just wants to be supportive. And he's the hardest working man. So I know. So every morning he's up at 3:30 studying and praying, and he texts me what he's reading. Yeah, still to this day, every morning I get a text from him early in the morning, and he never wanted to be in ministry, but he definitely is one of those guys that he ministers to a lot of guys behind the scenes and in the oil field and those sorts of things all of his life. He's a gospel witness wherever he is. He was a welder, so if there was just a hand, he would say, hey, you can go from making 14, 16 bucks an hour to making a lot more. I'll show you how to weld during your lunch break. And so he'd use that as a hook to get young guys to hang out with him during their lunch break, and he would train them how to weld. And the whole time he's telling them about the gospel. Yeah. So yeah.
I'm a bivocational ministry. I also work at a prison. I'm a chief of security at one.
Okay.
But I spend some time in the chapel because making security checks or whatever.
Yeah.
And we have a welding program. And man, I heard this guy give the best analogy with talking about welding and how Jesus brings that. I would butcher it if I tried it.
Oh, I get it though. Yeah.
But man, there's really a good avenue to, especially teaching a young person or talking to a young person there with something they can physically put their hands on and move.
Yeah.
Outside of your dad and the pastor who was having you do these things and start these things, do you have some other ministry mentors? Along the way.
I tend to collect mentors.
Oh, okay.
Before I became a believer and a pastor, my only obsession in life was particularly basketball. I wanted to be the coach, right? So that's why I was. And so in the coaching world, that's common. You're a part of a pipeline. You read coaching books. You go to coaching clinics. You kind of build a circle of guys you can learn from. And so there was a lot of that where I think God used, like, if you're going, I've designed you in a certain way with certain passions. You were pursuing them in basketball and you were pursuing them in coaching, but I'm going to take all those same things that you wanted to do. Now you're just going to do it in ministry. And so I immediately asked different guys to sort of mentor me in Mineral Wells. But really, the past few years, there was a mentor of mine named John Burton. He was a leader in Campus Crusade, crew now. He really showed me a different way to relate to people and disciple. He was never a full-time pastor. In fact, he wanted to be an encouragement to pastors. So he always stayed outside of pastoral ministry, but he would just go to golf courses and go to things. And he was a wonderfully strange man, and he would say that. And he would build relationships with pastors, and finally these guys would say, well, what do you do? And he'd say, I do strange things. Yeah. And they'd say, what do you mean? He said, well, I help pastors install discipleship ministry into what they're currently doing. And because he had learned a philosophy of ministry and discipleship through Campus Crusade that was, built for a big college that could connect to all types of people, and then he would show pastors how to do that. And so I go to Albuquerque at a BCNM Evangelism Conference, and another mentor of mine, Alan Stoddard, I'll get to him in a minute, but Alan says, "Hey, come sit down with us for a minute." And I hear John just in a very polite way, but the keynote speaker is sitting down at the table with him, and he's asking these wild questions that I'd never heard another guy in ministry ask, but they were the questions I was asking, but I didn't know who to ask them to.
Right.
And so John and this keynote speaker are having this wonderful back and forth, and I'm just a fly on the wall for like an hour and a half. And I asked my friend, "Who was that?" He said, "Well, it's John Burton. He lives fairly close to you." And so John and I met for a couple of years, and he passed away about a year and a half ago. But John Burton from Campus Crusade, he was a discipleship mentor of mine. Alan Stoddard was pastor at First Baptist Ruidosa and then Calvary Chapel in Ruidosa. Now he's planting a church in Texas. He's been a mentor of mine. And now I actually have a couple guys in the church here at Mayhill who are brilliant men. I consider them, scholars of Scripture, but they have different influences. One is more, he's a veteran and he's a genius when it comes to agriculture. And then another one is from the academic and accounting world. So both these guys can give me a different look at the Bible from their own expertise that a lot of guys never really get to see. And both of them are godly men, and we meet every week and pray and review my sermon and prepare some of the study for my sermon. And then there's some other guys who are just, my father-in-law, my dad, both of them were godly men who showed me how to do pastoral ministry, but also just I was the heathen who became a believer, and I wanted to pursue dating Cassie, and they were guys who showed me how to be a godly man and godly husband, godly father, those sorts of things too.
Yeah, there's a lot of just logistical things that you have to learn. I was real surprised getting into it. Like the time came I had to baptize somebody. I called my mentor in Roswell. I'm like, man, I don't know what to do. I get it.
Yeah, but if you haven't seen these things thousands of times growing up in church, you're like, everything's new, and I'm supposed to be the leader at it. Right? Yeah.
How do you find that you're mentored to the best? Somebody explaining just everything to you, or somebody giving you something to read, something to study? Where do you?
So I did the reading thing on my own for a long time. I read everything I could get my hands on. I was even for a few years before I went to Mexico, I think I was reading like 50 books a year type of thing. I was on a hardcore program that I invented myself just to play catch up because I wasn't the church kid, right? And I don't like it. The other style, what I prefer is guys just challenging me without giving me a lot of instruction, vaguely defining what they want me to do and not giving me the how-to, even though I would prefer them saying, "Here's how you do this.
Right.
Say this, do this." I would love that, but I don't really grow that way.
Yeah.
But what I have with a couple of my guys, whether it had been John Burton or Alan Stoddard or my local guys here, they've done a great job of saying, here's where you can improve on this. Here's some goals that you should have, or think differently about this, but not give me the exact X's and O's. And then I always leave the conversation a little mad going, why don't you just tell me how to do it?
Right. Yeah.
But then that's where trusting in the Holy Spirit's guidance, pursuing the Lord through His Word, and then you're like, oh, I got it. And then it's more personal. It's more, I owned it, and I grew a little bit more, and I'm like, I see why they did that.
Yeah. I've had two in my ministry. One in Roswell. He's at First Baptist. He's the music guy over there, and the other one I'm sure you know is Herb Gage.
Okay.
And I think he's was in Alamogordo. I'm sure he's been around y'all's association. But he would have me write everything down like manuscript, and then he'd say, "Okay, so now go up there." And he says, "But don't read it."
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's like, why don't you just tell me what?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
What to do over here?
But I think good coaches, good mentors, they're not just instructors.
Sure.
They're helping shape you and guide you, but they're not. It'd be too easy just to say, here's how you do this.
Yeah. Do you find yourself mentoring others in that way, or do you tend to explain more?
I just turned 40, so I think I'm kind of in the middle where I catch myself. Oh, quit telling them exactly what to do. Quit telling them exactly what I want them to do, because they're not me. They don't have. We all
Right.
have different strengths and weaknesses. So like Ford Prather, he's our worship leader. He started about a year into my ministry here. Uh, I've I've committed to doing that what I want to do or what I want to have done to me with him. So we have sort of discussions about what do we want our worship service to look like, how the music should sound, but I don't say here's what songs to play.
Okay. Yeah.
You see what I mean? He has. I trust him. That's what I wanted him to know. And we did discipleship together. We do studies together. We pray together. We have fun. I was at his house, Thursday night, just hanging out together. So it's some of that sort of osmosis. But when it comes to here's our ministry, I trust you. Even if you mess up, it's okay. We're on the right track. Right. And so I try to stay a little hands off and allow him to grow and flourish in the ways that people have been doing to me for a while too.
Are you guys a hymnal kind of place or contemporary?
No. We do hymns and contemporary, but the hymns that we do, we might throw the hymnal number up there, but they'll do it in a little bit more of an acoustic modern style. Very simple, and it's perfect context where we are a rural mountain church. So there's this wonderful gospel, almost sometimes bluegrass country sort of mountain vibe. And they're gifted musicians, but we scaled down what we do on Sundays to Ford, maybe sometimes 2 acoustic guitars. We have a wonderful piano player and a couple of backup singers, and Ford's son actually does the drums, but it's wonderfully done, but it's restrained. It's not. It fits us. It's not full blown contemporary. It's not hymnal only. I think they've done a great job.
I see. What could somebody expect from a visit to Mayhill Baptist Church?
Well,
is that what you are? Are you first or
no? Mayhill Baptist. Okay. Just pretty simple and clean. So we just actually had our VBS, and we had a group from Texas come help us because we're a mountain church. We get a lot of the surrounding communities come to our VBS. The kids do, and so it's like a lot of churches, a big swelling of kids that we don't have enough. We have a ton of volunteers. There was probably 30, 35 volunteers from our church, which we are incredibly grateful for. But we asked another church from Texas to come help do rec and some of the kitchen stuff, those sorts of things. And so they hung out with us for the week. And so I'm using their words, not just mine. They said Mayhill is full of the kindest people, genuine, serving. And now I can say on top of that, when I came and visited the church just as a tourist before I was a pastor. And that was one of the attracting things. When you walk in, they are genuinely kind and nice people. So if a visitor was to walk into Mayhill, you would either see me or we have greeters, and I mean that in the best way. Hopefully they'll help you with your kids, getting them wherever they need to go. But it's a very, very warm church. And my thing that I've done since becoming the pastor here is when you are a first-time visitor here, you get a coffee cup with Mayhill Baptist on it, some goodies, some chocolate in there with a little card in it. welcoming you. And if you like to, you can fill that out, and I'll buy you a cup of coffee in Mayhill or Cloudcroft somewhere, and we can get to know each other. There's something about being, I think all small towns have this, but I think the extreme rural nature of Mayhill, because there's 54 people in our little community, and the nearest Walmart, like I was telling you earlier, is almost an hour away.
Right.
There's a neighborliness that is just it's required.
Mhm.
Everybody has to help each other out because 911 is also an hour away.
Right, yeah.
So we all have to really depend on each other, and that comes into the church and adds a wonderful component as well.
I remember I met you. I don't remember which one, but I remember we talked for a minute, and I used to have this running joke if I'd watch something on TV about, I don't know, Hawaii or someplace nice or something like that. I'd see it and I always say, "Oh, I feel like I'm getting cold,"
Yeah, right.
and I always kind of felt that way about some of these mountain towns.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, you guys, you're just over here living it up, and it's so pretty. And you told me that, Dilly, you said there's lots of people on that mountain.
Yeah.
And that made me think, and man, my heart started aching for people in those places, because those, man, people are in places that are just so beautiful, and it's probably more of a challenge to get the gospel to those people, because, man, life's good, it's pretty here.
Right.
We have this community, we have this
there
sense.
is some kind of, I don't know, like a false perception, like you think it's only retired people who are doing well in life, so they have no reason to not be anything but happy and go for a hike every day and those sorts of things. And there's that. There is some of the Mayhill and Cloudcroft where there's a genuine cheerfulness with some people, but others don't do well with isolation.
I see.
So there's it was almost surprising. I don't know why, but maybe I was buying into that false reality. It's like, oh, there's drug problems here just as much as anywhere else I've been.
Right.
There's I haven't done the full research, but there's kind of the theory that suicide is actually a higher percent here because of isolation and cold and winter, those sorts of things. And so there's definitely maybe a different sort of darkness that can happen on the mountain as opposed to other places. It's not equating, but it's just different. Yeah.
So what is the best way to reach people in an area like that, where it might take you an hour to walk up someone's driveway?
Yeah,
or
I think, and that's some of the things I've been working on recently. How to, whether it be program or one-on-one evangelism, those sort of things. We want to do those things well. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater type of thing. But because communication on the mountain is so slow, and maybe the currency of relationships is so vital because of that sort of neighborly dependency. For instance, when I first moved up here, I was about a year into ministry, and there was a guy who didn't go to church with us, but he's actually from the same town that I'm from, and he lives 30 minutes south. But we'd bump into each other, and he'd say, "Well, how's everything going?" And I'd say, "Well, I'm about a year into my ministry here. I feel like I'm finally settling into things." He said, "Well, I've been here almost 40 years, and so just remember, I'm still the new guy."
Right. Yeah.
So relationships take a long time to cultivate in such a small town, because as opposed to kind of a neighborhood, subdivision of a suburb type of town, you can get to know your neighbors really quickly, and you can know their kids real quickly, and you can build a relationship fairly quickly because you're seeing each other come and go, and you get the rhythms of their life. Or here, you might see people once or twice a month. So the relationships take longer to build. And so now, answering your question, how do you reach people? Within the church has to be the body that it will be evangelistic, because I can't, it's physically impossible to try to reach 2,000 people that are spread out over 150 miles in not just highways, but it might be 45 minutes down Highway 82, and then you take a turn 20 minutes, and then you have another 30-minute gravel road to get to their house, type of thing. And so our church collects people from seriously about a 100-mile radius.
Oh.
Yeah, people drive from White Sands or the Holloman Air Force Base, or 45 minutes east of us, and everywhere in between. And so to properly evangelize a mountain town, I think first the church truly has to trust and know that you're not a hired hand who's going to be here 2 years and then leave.
Right.
But once they trust and appreciate you and understand your vision for ministry, what we've seen in Mayhill is that maybe some of the guys who didn't come to church for the past 10 years, but their family did, but now they're starting to show up.
Nice.
So, and it's because the community that is Mayhill is much more unified and on the same path, and so there's a trust, and they're doing the work, because it truly is. It can't be me just doing all the evangelism, but once relationships are on a really good foundation, they will, because even their neighbor might be 30 minutes away from them, and that's the closest person, but they'll know, they'll hear, they'll be invited to church, that sort of thing. So they can reach people that I might not ever see, and I might not even know how to get to their house.
Or know that they exist.
Yeah, exactly. And even sadly, in Mayhill, we haven't even had the cafe for over a year. So there's zero watering hole for 20-minute drive in any direction. And so evangelism is difficult. Shepherding is difficult. Time is very precious.
How does that affect your service? Like, I mean, for instance, we go an hour. Do you tend to go more since people are coming from that far?
I would say on Sunday school is very vital. They want Sunday school not only for the study but for fellowship, because they are making a big sacrifice. Some of them are driving an hour to get to church.
Sure.
And so even in the search committee sort of process, when I was being interviewed, they were saying, hey, a lot of people only get to see other people on Sunday. They're working on their ranch 6 days a week, and then they get to come to church Sunday. So, one, we want some fellowship, and we want you to teach us. You know, they don't, whereas in Mineral Wells, our church was built on small groups and hanging out together all the time and being with each other 3 or 4 days a week, and that's just impossible here. It's tough to do a midweek service, because they're like, one, we don't like to drive at night. We're going to hit an elk. You know, so on Sunday there's a high expectation. We want true fellowship, and we want to learn something. And so our Sundays, there was the church growth experts who were telling me, "You're still doing Sunday school? You got to cut that out. You got to move to small groups." And I was like, "No, we can't do that." And they're like, "No, it'll be better." I'm like, "No, really, you don't get it. I can't." They're like, "Okay, well, how many people go to church there?" I'm like, "Oh, somewhere between, on any Sunday, 90 to 130. And he's like, okay, well, how many go to Sunday school? Like 40, 45, 50? I'm like, no, like 90 or 100. Like almost, 80, 90% of our people come to Sunday school. They want fellowship. They want to extend that time. And we have a lot of lunches just for the sake of community and celebrating together and those sorts of things, because they are driving 30, 45, 60 minutes to come to church. So they, which I love, because they want to make the most of our time together.
Oh yeah. How'd you end up hearing about? How'd you end up coming here?
Yeah, so it was that time when I was in Mexico. We had sold our house in Texas, and so when every 6 months or so, I would come back to Texas and do some work with my director in Texas. But we would spend a weekend or a week, my family, coming out to Mayhill, because the church has a mission home. So they have this double wide trailer, fully furnished. You just bring some groceries, and if you're a missionary or a pastor, priority is IMB missionaries. Second priority would be like SBC pastors. But if you're in the ministry and you need a break, a respite, a time away, we have a mission home for you. And so I would take advantage of coming up to Mayhill and staying in the mission home. And then we had done that, I think we had done it twice. First time in June of 2020, just me and my wife. 2021, we come in probably June again with the whole family. But then we go back to Mexico, and that was when my wife her health problems really escalated. She got a flight back to Dallas, and then the kids and I stayed in Mexico for a couple of weeks, and then we met her back in Texas. And she was kind of giving me the reports of what the doctors had said. And I said, okay, well, when's your next doctor's appointment? She said, well, it's in 2 weeks. I said, okay, well, let's clear our heads and maybe get some rest. Let's go to Mayhill. Let's see if the mission home is open. And so we weren't supposed to be in the States. We were supposed to be in Mexico. Had my wife not gotten sick, we wouldn't be in the States at this time. But you can start seeing God's hand on it now, because again, we weren't supposed to be in America. We come back, we go to Mayhill. The mission home is open, so we hang out for a week. We go to church Sunday, but we're going to leave Monday morning. And that Sunday, the previous pastor, he had announced it a couple weeks before, but this was his last Sunday. We didn't know that. We go to church. I get a tap on the shoulder from a deacon who we had built a relationship with, and he says, hey, can you preach Sunday? We had an interim pastor lined up, but it fell through. So we don't have someone to preach Sunday. And I said, well, our bags are packed. We're leaving tomorrow. I didn't book the mission home for, next Sunday. He said, it's open. Stay here another week. Do you have anywhere to go? I was like, well, no, we actually don't have another doctor's appointment for a while. I said, Cassie, you want to stay here another week and I'll preach Sunday? And it worked out. I preached, and I was actually preaching how to find your next pastor.
Oh, yeah.
I was doing this sort of leadership sermon and sort of qualities, what to look for. I preach. They asked me to put in my resume, but I was like, no, I'm going back to Mexico. And I did. I went back to Mexico for a few more months, but a couple of the guys said, hey, we really liked your sermon. We've got to know you, just following you on Facebook. Put in your resume. And so I did, and they called me in December and said, you're one of the three that we've, come down to. And I said, yeah, I'm still interested, because we need a transition plan, so we'll be praying about that. And then they asked me to come for a view of the call, and I had to say, Cassie, what is a view of a call? Like, what does that mean? And she said, you poor non-Baptist, she said, that's when they want you to preach so they can find out if they like you. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And that's kind of how that worked. Within, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, I was a pastor, of having not really ever thought about Mayhill serving here. They had a good pastor. I think he had to go back to deal with some family issues, a sick mom and dad type of thing, and it all just worked out.
Yeah. And your family, were they open to that? Were they glad to get back this side, or were they like, no, we're Mexican citizens now?
No, we love Mexico. We were talking about that this morning. We want to take some of these Mayhill folks down to the jungle. We love Mexico, but it was time for us to move, both ministry and for health reasons. Cassie, my wife, always has had this dream of living with trees. In Texas, you have some mesquite trees, but it's pretty flat, right? She loved the mountain. My son, he's a pretty intense kid, and when we came up here, when we brought them up here in the previous summer, he was like, "Oh man, he was just probably 9 or 10 years old, and he said, I feel like I'm at more rest here in Mayhill than I've ever been." He was pretty stressed in Mexico. My daughter, she's pretty carefree. She's happy wherever she is. But the family's done really well in Mayhill. Now the kids are all busy with sports, and they have their own friends, and my son has a job, work, weekends type stuff, and they love it here.
Has has God shown you what's going to happen when it's time to ride off in the sunset? Are you here forever? Where do you think you're going to end up?
Yeah, I kind of feel so. I don't want this to be the non-answer, but God is always, and I mean this as a slight to myself and just the goodness of God. He's always treated me like the dumb little kid. He's like, Pete, I want you to go here. Hey, dummy, I'm giving you breadcrumbs. You better be able to see these. Because had it been up to me, I'd still be in Mineral Wells, bivocational quality manager, and I had just bought a house. I think I would have already had that house paid off by now.
Yeah.
I had my life set up exactly the way I wanted. I had a house, I had the family, I had the car, the garage, the dog, the job I wanted, everything. And God said, go to Mexico. I did that. And he said, go to New Mexico. I did that. So that's kind of how if he ever wants me to leave, I'll be obedient. But I never wanted to leave Mineral Wells. I never wanted to leave Mexico. Wherever I am, that's where I am.
That's home. Huh?
That's home. Yeah. And so, sadly, now we feel like our heart is split in 3 places. Texas is home. We have family there. We have our old church there. Mexico's home. We have brothers and sisters there. We did funerals there. We went through the pandemic together. We did so much ministry together. I love those guys. But I was just at I took my daughter to volleyball practice, and I'm hanging out. It's open gym, and they're practicing, and there's a grandma there who's taking her granddaughter to practice, and we're chit-chatting, and there's a lady who just moved to the area, her daughter became friends with my daughter. We're just having a chat, and this other young lady, she has a daughter who was interested in volleyball. She saw our car out in front. She thought it was my wife. So she comes in, she's like, where's Cassie at? Where's your wife? I was like, well, it's just me. I brought my daughter. And she said, well, I was going to leave Evie with Cassie. I said, well, just leave her. I'll hang out with her and she can watch, and then I just realized this is as much family as it was in Mexico or as it was in Texas. This is sort of like my little niece. We go to her house all the time. She comes to our house. She's friends with my daughter. Here's kind of my aunt figure. I go fishing with her husband and, the kids playing volleyball. And, this is kind of the new person in our community. And, so wherever we are away from home, we have to build family. And so I treat them like family because my kids don't have grandma, grandpa around us. We don't have, everybody that we are friends with, we're doing life in church with, so those are our family.
That's awesome. We talk about that some too over there. We call it doing life together. Kind of a joke on a prison, but it's
And like I said, I never thought about leaving Texas, but there's something about I would love to do ministry in Mineral Wells, but I think there's something I've learned, and other people might experience this as well. But when I had to leave sort of home, I learned how to be more dependent on people. I was pretty independent, right? Everything. I think God was showing me something like, I'm moving you away from home. You're going to grow a lot more, but you're going to learn how to depend on other people because you need them.
Yeah, we're built for relationships.
Yeah. And I think that was a lesson God was teaching me. Like, and when you go to Mexico, like, I had to furnish a home. I had to I had to know where the grocery store was. There's things that they don't even know how to teach you because they don't know how ignorant you are. So I remember a common thing, like I went to the grocery store like we do here. You might do the same thing if you live, how close are you to Walmart? Like 30 minutes?
Yeah.
So we're closer to an hour. If we go down the mountain, we get 2 carts. We're loading up for a couple weeks. So we did that in Mexico. And then we bought 2 carts of groceries and we realized they don't do bags here. No paper, no plastic.
Oh, yeah.
And so we had to put all the stuff back into the carts and then put it in the car and then go home and each individual thing with no bags. So, we learned a lesson. Get big tote bags before you go to the grocery store. So there's thousands of little things like we don't know how to do life here. And so we had to learn, take somebody with you. I don't care if it's going to the store. Take somebody with you. You can hang out, learn how to do something differently there. Yeah,
I can imagine that being real extreme in a jungle too.
Oh yeah.
Every third apple or whatever kill you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You don't
Yeah,
know
everything's
which
trying
is
to kill
which.
you. You know, instead of chickens, it was iguanas. Instead of rattlesnakes, it was these red vipers, and everything. And then the first time you ever see a dragon fruit tree, you're like, oh, I get it. That's why it's called a dragon fruit. It's gnarly. Yeah.
That's funny. What I always ask everybody this, and just for sake of for continuity here, I always ask everybody their favorite song and their favorite verse, passage, or story.
Okay. So I would consider it a Christian song, but I'm not sure if it's a worship song. My favorite song for the past few years has been by Red Clay Strays. I don't know. Have you heard of them?
But I'll tell you all about Red Clay Strays here in just a second. Which song?
So I kind of feel like I've been almost like a Red Clay Stray evangelist. I've been telling everyone,
man, if you say "Want to Be Loved," I'm gonna.
No, it's not "Want to Be Loved." It's "Disaster."
Okay, yeah.
So one, I love biblical theology, but as we've been sharing, we're not from like the overly churched world. So when he comes out, what's the first line? I'm a music player. I'm a giant slayer. I'm young king walking. Now the prophet's talking. I don't want to say I got carried away, but I really just killed a man. Oh God, disaster struck again. I'm like, whoa, that's Sometimes I feel out of place in worship when I'm listening to like K-Love or whatever the and I don't mean that derogatory. Brothers that I love, they have that going on all day and they're worshiping their tails off, and I love it. But sometimes I put that on and like, I don't know what you're talking about. Everything's wonderful right now. I feel like sometimes there's a disaster going on. So like I grew up listening to Pearl Jam. There was something rough and edgy about the lyrics and Eddie Vedder, and then I became a believer, and I've been so like when 10 came out and I'm this young kid, I'm like, there's someone saying something that I feel.
Right.
Then I became a believer. So I kind of view like Red Clay Strays as my redeemed Pearl Jam experience. I'm like, oh, here's a guy who's saying something that I connect with. Finally, there's a guy who he's a believer. I don't know everything about him, but this is Bible, but he's saying something in a way that I feel. And it was the first time I was like, oh, I feel this music. And I don't know, 20 or 30 years. So I'll throw on some Red Clay Strays, Disaster, Drowning, some of the, that may show the darker side of me, but that's what what I
I'm
connect
fine
to.
or something.
I'm fine. And I heard I think someone was like contemplating or maybe about to act upon suicide,
and just put them in their ears and
they listened to I'm fine, I'm still fine, and they didn't do it. I'm like, I get that. Yeah.
I remember I had heard it on YouTube and then had heard it somewhere else, and it was that song Revival.
Yeah.
And man, Spotify waited 10 years to put that thing out. Well, patiently waiting every week for this.
I love so their live album at the Ryman or whatever it's called is I've played that album over and over and over. It's awesome. Then they came out with their newest album. I almost didn't want to listen to it because I was like, it has to match that live album experience, and I think they did a great job. There's a lot of good songs on their new album.
The live at the Ryman, that is the best version of One.
It is. Yes, absolutely.
And I've heard that song every way you can hear it. And that's the best one. And I think it's because he mentions prayer.
He changes the last lyrics. Yep.
Oh yeah. We were listening to those guys on the way over here. We went and watched them in Lubbock.
Is that
several months ago?
Awesome. So song,
story or passage?
Story
or passage or verse?
Okay,
or something. Where are you going here? What's your go-to?
Yeah. So my favorite passage, sort of, if there is a life passage, some people have those, some people don't care for them, whatever. But this verse has been with me for the past 7 years. And so I'll give you the story. The first when it sort of was thrust into my life. I'm at Indian Creek Baptist Church in Mineral Wells, Texas. They're doing my sending service to go to Mexico, and Pastor Jake Grogan there at Indian Creek. He's been there for 7 or 8 years now. I mean, if I could write in who would I want to be the next president, it'd be Jake Rogan. He's the most capable, has the best head on him. He can figure out any solution to any problem. He's awesome and a great preacher. Maybe the best preacher I know. So he's doing, and we were best friends before I went to Mexico. So he's doing that sort of sending message.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, well, he'll probably do the Great Commission or 2 Timothy 2:2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he breaks out Ezra chapter 7 verse 10.
Yeah.
I'm like, where are you going with this? I'm going to Mexico. But and so I always paraphrase it, but because I've adapted it a little bit to my own life. But basically, Ezra says, or it says about Ezra that he committed in his heart to study the law, to do the law,
mm-hmm.
and to know it, to do it, and to teach it. Know the Torah, know the word, to teach it, and to do it. And so those three things are kind of, and the last little kicker, Jake said, don't go to Mexico and give them a warmed over message that you had done 3 years ago. You're going down there, God's sending you down there, give them something fresh and from the Lord each time. I was like, okay, I'm not against preachers if, they preached over here and
mm-hmm.
they're somewhere and they need a sermon in 5 minutes, calling up another one, or maybe, and sometimes sermons may need to be preached, but he was telling me, you're going to, God's sending you there, hear from him, learn from him, and give them what God is telling you, not something what God told you in Mineral Wells,
mm-hmm.
And so those three things, know what God says, do what God says, and teach it. And those are kind of three challenges to my life. Like, be a student, be an observant follower, have fear of the Lord, try to please him. I think we overlook how many times Paul says in his epistles, everything is about pleasing the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
We're saved by God's grace, but once you're a child of God, you're a child. So like with my son, Mac, I want him to take out the trash. Mm-hmm. But why do I want him to take out the trash? Because I want him to want to be pleasing to me and his mother. Right. Not because he has to. He's my son, whether he takes out the trash or not.
Sure.
But I want him to grow up to be a young man who says, the trash is getting full. I'm going to do that because I love mom and dad. Mm-hmm. And I don't want them to have to always ask me, hey, remember to do, mm-hmm. It's that I love my dad so much, I want to please him. Mm-hmm. And so those three things, know what the Lord has in store for you, has told you what he wants you to do, what he's empowered you to do. You go do it, and while you're doing it, teach others how to do that too. So it's kind of my sort of discipleship mm-hmm. for me focus. Yeah. And then you read Ezra and you're like, okay, yeah, he was sort of, we don't look at it, but I think there was a recovery and a revival to Ezra's ministry.
Yeah, yeah, we're in that right now in our adult Sunday school. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, Pete, first of all, I want to thank you for your time. You've been very, very generous with your time. I had a good time. Anytime you want to get together again, man.
Oh man, I didn't. We were just talking. I realized we're on, huh?
Yeah. I tend to do that.
No, awesome. Yeah. You tricked me into doing it. We were just chit-chatting.
Yeah. There you go.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Before we go, is there anything that you want people to know about yourself, your family at Mayhill? Anything you'd like to?
Despite all of my humanness and lack of whatever ability or whatever, God's doing something awesome on the mountain. We just had VBS. There's some special things happening, which means there's also the fight, the mm-hmm. resistance, and that is, I've learned to see that as an encouragement. So be praying for the surrounding communities, because Mayhill, Cloudcroft, or even Hagerman, we actually we're like, oh yeah, that's the next town over, even though it might be 2 hours away. Yeah. So this whole southern New Mexico, area. Be praying for God to keep working, for there to be revival, and particularly be praying for, we just had our VBS, and we love ministering to children and to families, and we've seen, when I got here, there was not really even a need for nursery. Half the time the nursery attendant got to come to the service, which is cool, but now there's 2 and 3 attendants, because we have 6 and 8 and 10 little ones in there, and so we're getting more young families coming to know the Lord, and or coming to the area and finding us to be a suitable church where they fit in, and our youth are expanding in numbers and growing in maturity. So we're really trying to do some good gospel culture and reach people, and which means we have wonderful messiness type of thing too. And so just be praying for Mayhill, Cloudcroft, Mayhill Baptist. Yes, awesome, but all the churches, we all need each other. We're not competitors. We try to help each other with VBSs and those sorts of things. So, I like to, I try to keep a kingdom heart where I'm praying for Southern New Mexico. This can be like we were kind of alluding to earlier. It's beautiful, but it can be dark. There's also, a growing sort of witchcraft presence, and the everything from moon worship to all sorts of things. It's not Bible Belt.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%. Would you send us home in a word of prayer?
Yes. Let's pray. Lord God, thank you so much for Joshua. Thank you for this opportunity to have some fellowship disguised as a podcast. Thank you for his ministry, Lord. I remember getting a visit with him about 4 or 5 years ago, and thinking I like this guy more than anyone else in the room. So, Lord, thank you for reuniting us here to have a conversation. So I pray for his wife, his family, his ministry. We're on the same team and serving this area. So, Lord, would you be honored and glorified in everything that we do as your servants and as your sons. And so, Lord, bless him, bless his ministry in a mighty way. And so, Lord, we love you. We thank you. And may this conversation be used in others' lives as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, brother. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Man, thanks.
Hey, everybody. Josh again. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Go Therefore podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to follow us on Spotify or Apple or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. And if you really liked it, then leave us a positive review. It'll help others to find us. Anyway, you have a good day, and God bless.